now. All right. So now um, you need to open the Maya application first, and then you go to File menu and Set Project. Once again, this is for people who, this is for when you wanted to continue to work with the previous project. And you're going to just navigate to wherever it is. So I already have right there. So you select, and might be a good idea to double click to check, see if this is the directory. And then now there will be a time though that you double click 3 times, like double click and add another third one. You might highlight this. And if you highlight any folder beside the project folder, when you click set, it's going to give you this message. Said, well, there's no workspace.mil. Workspace.mil means keep the information of the interface and some other shortcut that you have, and information of frame rate or a unit and things like that. So you have to click select another location. You don't want it to create default workspace. If you do that, Maya will get confused about the last file that you saved that has a link from bitmap or other thing that related to the system. So you have to select other location. Now when you do this, you might have to go up one level, highlight if you're sure that the subdirectory is inside, and then you click select, or you double click, just double click twice, no more than twice. Now what Maya look at it, this file, workspace.mil, and this is will have instruction of what the bitmap path under source image to the scene, the unit, the all the setting for animation and so on. So, and then you just click set. So now you got this. And then when you go to file open, Maya should know where to look up your scene. See, I see all of these. So I'm going to close. So now we're going to create a new scene. Before that I forgot. So now we're going to have to download this. To download, one more thing before that. If you don't have the project from last section, you have to use File, New, Project window, sorry, and then New, rename it, and use locator to point the direction, the directory that you want to save. So, like for example, I can go to D drive again, Surit, TD, lecture, here we go, and then I select that location and then name. And when I name the project, I like to leave underscore and project, so that I can identify that this is my project directory. And then you click accept. So now, if you don't have a project directory, just create a new one. Okay. So then you will save this. Right click, save links as, and then you're gonna put inside scene folder of your project. So I'm gonna go back to my scene folder, and I'm gonna save in there. There we go. And now, if you open up that file, see, if you do it correctly, Maya know where to find. Let's open this up and take a look at it. Here we go. So, and you can turn on a grid. And I have a little lag on video card here. That's strange. I think because I turn on, I use light, I use shadow. I'm gonna turn this off. Here we go. So now it's a little, actually it doesn't really do anything much at all. So, hey guys, this button is the shadow, ambient occlusion, and anti-aliasing for the line. So now when you do rendering, you're gonna use these 3 buttons, and then you turn on light, but right now we have no light. So we'll talk about that later. So at this point, we are working just something simple. We don't need to do anything. Now, you will not be able to select this model. It's just because if you look at on the right side channel box under display layers, I referencing it. The first one is visibility. Second one is preview for animation. You can just leave it there. The third one is the layer type. Right now, R stands for reference. If you click one more, it will be normal, which is you can select and you can see the shade if you are on shade. Now, if you click one more to alphabet T, these are referencing. So you see only wireframe and you cannot select. And then the next one is reference. So you can turn off all of them so that you can select and look at on outliner. Now the trick is when you do a rigging, you have to consider about you may have multiple objects or maybe you want 3 of this. So you have to name them properly. And so that when you look at on the outliner, it's easy to find, easy to search. You can search the name too, stuff like that. So throughout the semester, when we are working on the rigging, I will also talk more about the name convention and just try to remind you over and over. And now, these are just a base model. If I press 1, I use number 3 for now on the tire, so that it does look smooth. Let me turn this off. Okay, click. Oh, quick. There we go. And I assign a basic color, just Lambert. So now you are welcome to modify from this. Like for example, you might want a slightly different shape on here and so on. And I will maybe, hold on, let me skip this. Later on, I'll talk about like how do you modify this if you, how many of you don't know how, don't know, you probably should know the basic modeling, right? But maybe not enough to modify. Anybody? Like, do you guys have enough knowledge to modify the model? What about UV? Anybody know about UV? UV? Okay. How many people don't know about UV? Everybody know about UV. So what about online people? Do you guys know about how to UV? Okay, so that's good. Like I said, this class is not about texturing and modeling. So, but if you like to know, let me know. I can help, and we can maybe set up a spatial section that we do a little bit of those too. So, and now these are separate pieces, and then has a correct pivot point. So even though we're gonna use bone to link this, we don't animate directly from here. We're gonna use a lot of indirect animation, and I will introduce you a forward and inverse kinematic too, because we're gonna do fold on here. Let me set up something quick. Let me show you what it is. Talk a little bit about. So let me point to my. Let me show you something quick. Oh, why it doesn't go there? Project 1. Huh? I am in the, oh, I didn't copy my file in here. That's not what I want. One moment, let me see. Oh, right here. Sorry. And I want to show you the origami render. I think that's one. So here we go. And I turn this on. I have lighting also. Can you see? This is for hardware rendering. When I turn on lights, So, and then you have to turn off all the other controller except for polygon when you render animation. But when you do a demo for functional, you need to show all of this so that we can see how it works. So now I have this node, some people call globe node. You can call any node. You can call like resizing node or reposition node, relocation node. It doesn't matter. It's just telling you that you use this node to relocate the object and still maintain all the functional. This is what happened. If I select the main control, can you see we zero this out? It has to be clean. Now, some of this has volumes because it's the calculation. I can just reset it because we don't, I mean, we can animate this manually also. So now it's just because when I'm moving around, the calculation is set there, and it just, Maya doesn't reset the calculation. So that what it does. So now can you see this is 0, right? If you move this forward, that's the volume. Now, if I grab this node, I still can move, but then this still contain that volumes. What it is here is not absolute world space. It's relative from the absolute. What absolute mean is like every time the object relocation, computer will have the instruction that where's the originals right there, center of the world space. So now this one has a relative node. It's not absolute also. It's just because it's a little confusing about absolute and world space, absolute node and relative node. Relative node is mean when you're moving from here, if you phase transform it and then you move it again, the values will be different than move straight from here to there. Because Maya used the absolute, the relative nodes showing up here, but the absolute is inside it, inside the shape node. So I'm going to put it back 0. So now what we're doing is when you have a globe node, all the child node will not take up the volumes of the translate, rotate, and scale. It's kind of preserving the volumes. So that's a little trick. It takes up but preserve the relative node, relative transform. And so this is what you can do is you can use a group node to relocate without changing the volumes from the sub control. See, because this is the main control has volume on translate, but the actual controller inside does not have. So we can use that to help to preserve translation and preserve transform node. And that's how it works. So now when I move, you can see the wheel rotate correctly because we do a little calculation, create a script that let Maya calculate the circumference, and then circumference will divide it by 360, and then that you will get a equal, you will get a flat straight line from the rotation of the from the circumference. And now we use these to control the wheel, and can you see the other side of the wheel doesn't rotate? That because we actually add extra auto rotate. So now I have this off. If I put 1, now both sides will move. Can you see? Rotate. And when you animate the rig, the globe node always stay there. You don't animate by moving globe node. You're moving actual controller. The globe node, you can call, I call relocate node. This is just used for relocation or scaling. So now, if I scale this node, can you see the size are enlarged properly, all of them, plus the calculation is still work. There you go. That because when I scale, we have a locator for distance measurement. And then we use that measurement shape, write a script to tell that if we scale, the measurement will extend also, the calculate will be correctly because it will update the volumes of the distance. Right now distance is 16, okay? So now I can bring this down back to 1. So let's go to the original. So if you wanted to scale your rig, you can scale it. And then the function's still there. Now, also, I have another control so that I can push this down. Can you see? Oh, let me turn this off. Sorry. Okay. I can push down. And when you see right here, let me turn on joint X-ray. There's a joint there. Can you see that's joint? So if I do non-show joint, let's show nerve CV, joint, IK handle. So where's my nerve? Curve. Okay, not CV. So now when I move this, can you see? So we animate. We set the driven. I set the driven key to move this slide forward, and it produced that motion. So we can slide down, and then we can move this, and you can rotate it, and it's still gonna move correctly. So, and because we zero everything, we can put it back really quickly. This one we can zero it out. And can you see, we have to limit the information of the attribute also. So, and this is allow you to rotate so that add a little subtle animation, like you want it when it stops, it's kind of pull it back a little bit and then check. So you could animate that. And now, if you wanted to animate manually, there might be a time you wanted to, like for example, you can select this and turn 0. When you turn off auto, we have another control. This is controlled directly. So you can animate like when it's rotated, let's say if rotate this way, you reanimate this to be backward, rotate backward, because this is going to rotate forward, right? You set the key so that this go back instead of follow exactly same orientation. So now I can put 0 back, select this, and this rig is not perfect, so there's some flaw. Certain things it might give an error on the rotation, but it's not really noticeable. So it's decent enough. Okay, so let's talk about the concept. I'm gonna create a new scene. Let's do it together this time. New scene. Let's talk about a calculation of the roll. And when you do the principle of animation, you might learn how to animate roll and move forward. So I'd like you to create just a basic shape, this one. Let's use torus. And then just to make it like tire, 90 degree. And you're gonna need to increase, let's do just only 2 units. So that make it a little simpler for the number. And now the subdivision axis, you just subdivision height, make it less. There we go. So look like this. Sorry guys. Hold on. Okay. And let's create a spherical. This will be on the center. I'm gonna rotate a little bit, 90 degree on. Mine is on Z-axis, so 90, there we go. And now the subdivision height, I'm going to make it less. How about, that's enough. And subdivision axis, let's do 6 or something. It's up to you. How about 6? Easier. Okay. I'm gonna squeeze this a little bit. Scale it. Here we go. Okay. So that's it. Now we're gonna have to relocate this, put it on the ground plane, and we maintain this is the front view. So if you look at on the z axis, positive z is front. And one more thing, guys. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna turn this off. Under display, heads up display, polycount for now. So now when you work on rigging, make sure you pay attention on the orientation or the axis of the workspace. You want anything forward to the front so that you can, when you import these to another scene, if you build based on the workspace, you don't have to do too much on rotating things like that or reposition it, because every single one of them will point into the same direction. Because sometimes you might build from the backside. When you import to the scene, well, your model point to backward. You have to rotate. Now you have that minus scale rotation on it. So something like that. Now, this is the local, the workspace tripod. Z forward, positive Z. When you see the direction of the Z, that's positive. Y is up, and negative Y is down. And positive X is on the right, negative is on the left. Okay, so now move them together until it's touched like this on the ground. This is the center of the workspace on y-axis. It's set right there. There we go. So now, if you remember the torus, we set it to unit, right? So it means, can you see it now is 2.545. If I look at right here, it's just a little 0.0 something down there, probably 0.4 something there. So what I should do though, I can select both and then rename, put this to 0.5. Okay, now I can see 0.5 is actually floating, so I was wrong, guys. I thought would be supposed to write maybe 0.24. No, so 2.45. That's, oops, sorry. That's it there. 45. Here we go. It just, yeah, actually it doesn't matter. I try to be too picky. Okay. And now, when I do rigging or modeling, somehow when I have a model, I like to see the wireframe on shade. So right here under shade menu, wireframe on shaded, shortcut is Alt 5. So that I can see the line, because when I do snapping, I wanted to see where the vertex is and things like that. So now, this has volumes. It's time to freeze it. So normally, when you do modeling, you will have to freeze them when you finish it all the time. You had to. And now there's a history. Do you have questions, John? Oh, you don't have questions. No, I thought you have questions. So make sure you delete history after freeze transform. Delete by type history. Basically, we don't want anything on the input if it's not related to our animation or rigging. We don't want it, any of them. So you can do delete by type history. Now the other menu is delete all by type. It means if you choose this, will delete all the history of every single object, single things on this scene. So sometimes you want, sometimes you don't. Okay. So now, how can we make this to be a moving all together when you have a component on it? You might have a spoke, rim, and center of the spoke and tire. So you need to group them so that they all go together. So now let's rename this. You can just call tire mesh, and then you have this one I'm gonna call I think I should call center or sprocket, maybe center. How about tire center mesh? Okay. So we're going to group this together. Now, there are two things though. You can actually use another control to control the object. Because if we add group, we can rotate the group, or we can use a non-rendering object, such as NURBS curve, so that it won't render when we render, but it's visible on the screen that we can use as a controller. So now, just try to be more. I think try to be more. Well, this time I'm going to be more careful. So let's group this, and we use control later. So edit group, so that we can contain this. So we can call a tire group. There we go. So now that's one other thing you need to pay attention, because we can have more than one tire, right? So we cannot just name tire. We should have left and right tire. So let's pretend this is the left tire. So I can select tire group node right there. Go to modify, and then you can choose add prefix hierarchy name. And then I'm gonna add L, capital or lowercase is fine. Here we go. And can you see it will add prefix to the whole hierarchy. So once again, modify prefix hierarchy. When you do this, you need to select the top node, the top hierarchy. And then we'll rename all. So because you can have two, and then the second project you can have 6 of them. Oh no, 1, 2, 4, 8, I think. Yeah. So now we got that group node, and we want something to control this rotation. So, okay guys, sorry, I go too far. So let's talk about the calculation of the rotation. So how we calculate it. Now this group node though, we are not going to animate on the group node here. We're going to use something else. Okay, so might be a good idea. Let's center pivots first. So modify center pivot so that it's on the center, just to make it a little more organized. And if you like to see the group node on the screen, you can do display, transform display, selection handle, and now you can select from here easier. But when we do rigging, the outliner is important. Make sure you show up the outliner so that we can read the hierarchy quickly. So now we need to calculate this. If you look at what I have for you guys, so the calculate of the rotation. So it's the roll rotation. The formula is a wheel roll in the straight line formula. So basically, you need to find the circumference. But the circumference is diameter and time square root, time pi, sorry, not square root, time pi. And then you will get a circumference on that, on the rotation. Oh, no, on the tire here. So how do we do that? So you're going to use create menu, measurement tool, distance tool. Now, let's use side view. And on side view, we wanted to place from here to there because I can see the line. See, that's the highest, the diameter. And I'm lucky because the models already has that. So now, it would be better idea if you turn on snap to point. So that it snapped to that vertex. So when you click and click, here we go, and then turn off snap to point. Shortcut is V when you do snapping. And that's the volumes of the diameter. So now, when you calculate it, let's say, calculator. I'm not good at math too. So 4.9. Now there's a few decimal there. I think if it's past 2, you can just take it out. 4.9. Because you can't really notice it. It's just only a few point. And then we're going to time this 3.14. Actually 6, but get rid of the 6. So that will be a circumference there. So now we're going to use that to divide 360, and then you will get the distance, how much it moved for one row. So now when I do that, so I divide it by, let's see, so this will be just only 1539 and 360. There we go. Oops, wrong. Hold on. I think you need to do this. 360 divided by 15 point. Did you guys remember? I didn't write it down. 65? Well, it's okay. And here we go. So now we get with just only 23. So 23 times distance. So it means if I move, let's say, the group node, let's add another controller on the group node. So let's do curve. Here we go. And just, that's it. So that we don't animate directly. Here we go. So, and then we're going to put this, let's call a L tire CTL control. So we're going to put the L tire group node inside the controller there. So you can do middle mouse drag on the outliner. There we go. So now it's inside. There we go. So when I grab that, it will move. Now my problem is I forgot to freeze transform, so I have to unparent. To unparent, just hold Shift P. Here we go. Select that, modify, freeze it, delete history, Alt Shift D, I think. Alt Shift D shortcut, delete history. There we go. So now I'm gonna do it again. You can do it on screen too if you want, but you have to select the group. Now when the group node selection handle under another hierarchy is turned to be a crosshair instead, just to identify that it's under something. So now we got that number, so 23. So let's move. So if I move, okay, hey guys, hold on. Click on the little gear icon with the little gear icon so that we look up on the time slider setting. Here we go. It's active and 24 frames per second, and by default play speed is 24 times 1. So just to make sure, and under animation, turn on auto key, and now the default in and out tension, just leave it auto. It's fine. It's easier too. So, but auto key is on, and there's a non-weight tangents. You always want to use weight tangents, but sometimes you forgot. You can still turn on it inside the graph editor, and I click save. So now from frame 1, let's do it a little less. 1 to 60. Okay. So so now we can set the first key here. If you wanted to limit the information, you could right click and set the key too. So, you can press S, but S, you're going to set everything. See if I press S. Now, this is just for example. Press S, and then I go to 60, and then move. I'm going to move how about 8 unit? Okay. So, now, we're going to select the group node to rotate. And might be better idea, for now we're going to use that, so simple. So the group node, you know what, we shouldn't do that. We should go back to 1. Let's add one more controller. Cylinder, circle, and 90 degree, and align it. This is going to be a child appearance of the group node, and it will be a child of the move control. So this one we're going to call a L underscore tire rotate CTL. Here we go. I put the word CTL so that we know it's for controller. So now we can line up to that center. What you can do is you can select the object, or the group node is fine, but the object is kind of easier. And then you go to modify, and you choose align to. Now on align to, you need to select the object that you wanted to move, and then you select the object that you want to be a reference for align. And then can you see align center on this direction, and all the other directions turn gray, so it means already centered. That's perfect. So now we're going to move this away. Now if you want the pivot point of the on the controller to be the center, there's a little trick here. You can use a control vertex because it's curved. Now you're going to select only control vertex. I switch to selection tool so that I don't move by accident. Now try not to drag select like this. Can you see? When you do that, the group node is the first priority. That's why if you do that, it will select the group node instead. So control shift together. If you hold shift only, it's also toggle deselect and select. So now you turn on move to, oops, I select that by accident. Turn on move to, and then you just move that shape outside. Now when you do this, when you move the component, you are not translate the object, you are not changing the translate node of the object. You actually move the component. So if I go back, can you see? It doesn't have a translate X. It has only translate Y. So, I mean, the reason that I do this because I don't want it to modify the pivot point to that location. Now I'm going to freeze transform, delete history, Alt Shift D. Here we go. And this object going to be only rotation, so rotate X. Everything else I'm going to adjust. Oh, I can't lock and hide yet. I have to parent first. So this is what you need to do. You change the change the hierarchy. The entire group node will be a child of that controller, and that controller, the rotate, will be a child of the main controller. I should rename tire move CTL. That make more sense. Okay. So now when you do that, see, if I select the move, hold on. I didn't do that yet. Sorry. Okay. So I'm gonna middle mouse drag the entire group to be under a rotate control, and rotate control will be a child of the move control. That's it. Just re-hierarchy it. So now what I need is, after I put that, I can lock. So I'm going to enable only rotate. So first I can lock the selection, and you can do lock and hide, but I want to show you step. So lock selector, so it means I cannot move this, I cannot scale up. I select the object by accident, hold on. I can, see, I cannot move, I cannot scale. If I turn on scale, and for rotation, I can do only, make sure here we go, only rotate X. I can't rotate any other. See that? Because I locked it. And also, if you wanted to make it clean, you can hide it. Now, how can you get it back though? To get it back, you select it and then you go to Window, General Editor, and Channel Control. Right there. Now, on here, these are keyable. Can you see? That's it. One attribute. And these are non-keyable because hidden it. But it doesn't mean you cannot key it. You still can key it on the attribute editor. The editor, yes, right there. But you have a lock. So right now it's on locked. On this side is on non-lock. So if you want to unlock, let's say if you want to unlock Y, you select and click Move to unlock. And then you go to Keyable, and then you look for a non-keyable hidden. So you should see rotate, where's rotate? Rotate Y, right there. Here we go. Not pivot. Those are the pivot point. Rotate Y, I can move it to keyable. So now it's come back. Can you see? And I can put it back too. Okay. Now another way to access is you can highlight this, go to Edit, Channel Control. So, okay. So now what I did is I animate this forward, and then now we have to look at what the distance. The distance is shown right here. Can you see? It said 8. Now, there will be a time though when you're facing something or it might not be correct. You might have to use a measurement tool. So measure the original location to there. So in this case, we're going to just do this easy one. So 23 times 8, basically that will be a full rotation. So go back to frame 1, and then you select this, set the key. You can press S. And then you can go to frame 60, press S again. And now I'm gonna 23 times 8. I just do calculation. So that's it, 184 degree of rotation, that's all. So 184. So now it will look like this. So the speed of rotation will be matched and from the distance because it has been calculated by the we're doing all the math of the rolling in the straight line. So that's the idea of making roll. But this is manual because you have to manually animate it, right? Okay. So do you guys doing okay on this? Do you want me to give you a few minutes to work on this? No? What about online people? No? Okay, so now that's the idea. Okay. So now we're going to talk about how to put this in auto mode. Okay, so this time though, we want our, let me save this quick. So, tire rotate, is that the name I saved? One moment, I probably did not save this at all. Yes. So test rotation this. Hold on. It's called concept.
Sorry.
Yes.
How did you relocate the rotate controller when you moved it outside the wheel?
Sorry. Say it again. What locator that I relocated?
The second NURBS curve that you created to rotate. Yeah, that one. How did you move that?
I mean, if you are not put them inside the hierarchy yet, you can move just only the shape. Like, how about, let me show you this. Here we go. So how about that? Let me freeze it. So if this is the shape, the pivot point that you wanted, but you wanted the object to be outside the curve, you right click and choose control vertex, because it's a component. So now when I move the component, I can actually even reshape it, and it will cause any deformation on the transform node at all. Can you see the transform node still stay, but the shape is go somewhere.
Okay.
So now they also like this. If you have another one, if I freeze transform it, and then I decide to move, but then I want pivot point to be right there again, so I can press D, hold V, hold X to snap grid, and then D again, and then you still can freeze it, and delete, Alt Shift D, see the pivot point. So there are a few ways that you can relocate the shape and have a different pivot point on different location. So, and we're going to use these a lot, technique. Anything else, guys? Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to use this model again. Let's save as. And then we're going to call, now not concept, it's called concept auto roll. I think that makes more sense. Okay, so let's clean this up. So the group node, we have the rotate control, we can keep it. So Shift P, there we go. So keep it. And now the move control, let's delete all the keyframe. We wanted to start it over. You choose delete selected, and this also delete selected. Here we go. Okay, my eyes are getting burst. So we already have all of those. That's good. And now with the auto, so basically right here, and there's an assignment operators. I am not I'm just know only a little basic of scripting. So, but it's good enough for doing a rig. If you know more, you can even build more complex. But there's so many tutorials online when you wanted to rig something. And so now we have a arithmetic operator that plus sign, subtract, asterisk, which is multiply, division, and manual operator for float and division. We don't really use this at all. Now the assignment operator is like what we're going to use this one. So it's using the information volumes on the right side, subtract it, and then give the output. So now the double equal is to double check that the right volumes on the right need to be assigned to the left. So basically like that. And then you have a container. It's enclosed the argument to function and method. So which is a parenthesis. And you have curly bracket. These are just to enclose the group of statement, because if you have two of the argument, you want it to have inside that group. So that you kind of, it's just like an order of command. You do this first, two things first, and then you do the another thing later. Something like that. Like the first set has two commands, and then the last set is one command. So multiply the asterisk, and there is a subtraction that we're going to use. And now the equal sign is a variable. So the variable is you store the information. Like for example, when we look at this, you could actually type all of this and put it right here, but then it will be longer, right? Now, you can create a variable to make it shorter, or you don't need to create at all. Now the thing is, if you have a more command, repeated command in the same object, if you have to write these 3 times, why don't you write just only a short one? So that when you write 3 times, you don't have to write these long. So basically, you don't really have to create variable. You could just type this into here, really long list. So what we're doing is we're going to have an attribute called auto. So auto can be on and off. If it's off, 0, do not calculate all of this. When it's 1, must calculate all of this. That's what it does. So now we give the variable because we want to check the translate z and the offset volumes. Divided by the offset volumes, you get some kind of distance. And then we check, we want the rotation, the volumes of these must be equal to the volumes of all of this time minus, because we put the negative. If the tire are reversed, you put positive instead. And then all of these commands. So this command is the commands of how much will rotate based on the distance that it moves, and that distance checked by this offset. Because it's offset from the original, so it's moved, so it's calculate those volumes. And now then you give the offset volumes equal to the translate. So if they move, they have to be equal. So that's create the auto move with the rotate correctly. So it might be a little confused, but if you do this for a few times, you will get the like how it works. So we already know that we did this, right? Manual, that we did that. But now we can use this to calculate it, and then based on the calculators, we're based on the original position of the move to the other side. Okay, so, and also, if you don't remember today, if you go to contents and technical info, I have, oh, not that one. Hold on, where did I put it? We'll auto rotate setup. So you can look at on this. And we're going to do it together. We're going to do exactly like this. But this is for you to review so that you can see how do we set up the constraint and things like that. Okay, so now let's do it together. So first, this one will be moved. And we can reshape if you like, reshape. So if I right click and choose control vertex, I can reshape it. So now I'm going to right click and go to group node. I want the pivot point to be right there on the base because I want it to rotate later on. Oops, sorry. Have to deselect. Here we go. I want it, come on. It just still keep thinking about the component selection inside. It doesn't update. Here we go. Hey! A little bucky here. Hold on. Okay. Hey guys, I'm gonna have to delete history, phase transform. Let's try. It just, I think it's just Maya did something weird. It just keep thinking that I'm still select that vertices, control vertex. Oh man, what's going on? Let me move. Come on. No. It's still moving my vertices. Oh, no, not vertices, control vertex. That's a really strange, never had that before. I might have to recreate a new curve. Let me try undo. Let me try again. Okay. Oh, no, no. I know what is it. I was confused myself. Sorry, it's a long day for me. It's correct because that's the font, right? So when it's rotated, it just tilt. The angle of the camera, that kind of confused me. I thought it was move the vertices. No, it's not. Okay, my bad. Oh my gosh, that's a long day. It's just the camera angle that caused me that illusion. So, okay. Now, the other thing is, maybe I should talk about, hold on, let's talk about how to create controller first, because I think it's more fun. Let me get rid of this. So can you Shift P? Okay, let's create a controller together. So now, to create a controller, there's a trick. Let's save this and create a new scene. New scene, save it, and then create a new one. We're going to build it on the top view so that when we assign the controller, it's always place it on the bottom. So now, under shelf, can you create a new shelf? And then they're going to call, you can call any name you want. So I'm going to call CTL shelf. Here we go. So now save. More shelf. Okay. And after I save, if you look at where to back up, it's under document. Now, Macintosh is different. I don't remember where to find it on Mac. And it has to be under document on the C drive, on the OS drive somewhere. And then Maya and 2020 and preference. And this is called shelf. And can you see it's right there. So you copy this and put it back up. Like for example, I can do copy D drive, and I'm gonna call new folder called Maya pref. Okay, and you can put that on there. You might get confused, but there's a name shelf. So now we can create an icon also. Let's do it together now. So now, let's click on the script editor here. And let's put it somewhere there. Okay, script editor. And under history, edit, clear all, so that is clean. Okay, so now let's take a look what happened. If we do create a circle, can you see that's a command? And this command, you can actually highlight it, like highlight all, middle mouse drag and drop on the shelf. And then you can use either Python or Mail. I'm going to just use Mail. So now, when I click this, can you see it's created that? So what we can do, let's delete this. We don't need that yet. So edit, clear again. You can do clear history or clear all. I'm going to clear all. Here we go. So now, let's try this. Use EP Curve tool, double click on it, turn on linear, close. You can create an arrow shape, like for example, now the reason that I want to use a new file, you can create on the current file that you are working with, it's fine too. I'm going to hold X key snap to grid. So one click, second click, third click, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and I wanted to snap it back. Now it doesn't matter how many loops you created, as long as it's a single loop. You don't have two shapes. Press enter. Now you get this. So I can highlight it. I don't need to highlight the snap. I just need the curve command. And when you look at it, can you see that's a stop execution? So like finish execution. So I can middle mouse drag this and drop on there. Mail. I can rename it. I can do edit. There we go. Under shelf, I want to rename this So right now icon name is, doesn't matter. Right here, this is tooltip. You can leave it as is so that it's kind of remind you what the code is, but it's actually, I mean, if you wanted to copy this code again, you can come back and highlight all of these, copy and paste somewhere, you know. So right now I can call ARR arrow. I don't know. How about W? Maybe too long. Too. And here we go. So now when I delete this, I can reuse it anytime I want to, and I can save. So I have to go back. Let me go back to, here we go. And I go to shelf and just recopy it again because it has been saved. And then I'm gonna just back it up. Overwrite the old one. So if you keep adding it, you can have more and more. Now, you can also do this. Create your own icon. So, here we go. And I'm going to do snip 2, snipping. And then snip it. And you should snip in square. So you can use Photoshop to square it up a little bit and save. And I'm going to back up into my folder. And I'm going to call a my icon. Okay. And then I'm going to call, you can save JPEG or PNG, is fine. Arrow. Here we go. So now I'm going to have to use Photoshop to make the line thicker and smaller. So if I do Photoshop, and I'm gonna, let me open, there you go. Okay, so now if I duplicate this, you don't have to duplicate it, but because I just want to show it to you. If I reduce the size, pixel, just only 30, like really small. And can you see if I do that? And come on. Now you can't really see the shape, right? So what you could do is, I'm not saving. So you could sample it. And, where is the sample? Magic wand. Where's the magic wand? Where did they change it? Oh, right there. Magic wand. So, sorry. And select that. Pause. Oh, you need to zoom in. Why is not? Okay. Anti-Aliasing. Turn that off. Okay. One more. Here we go. So, and then you go to selection, expand, modify, expand. Let's do, this one is, let's do 10 pixel. Might be too thick with, oh, perfect. And then I can sample the color. I mean, you can use any color. Let's whatever color is, okay. And here we go. And then I'm gonna alt delete, oh, sorry. Edit fill, foreground color. Here we go. So now, if I shrink this down, size 30, I can see clearer. And then I'm gonna save this. And save document, save on my computer. Here we go. And I'm going to use JPEG, so that is reduced to 72. JPEG, JPEG, come on. My eyes is getting worse. Now, where do I save it? I'm going to save in my icon first. And then, here we go. And then, I'm going to copy this and put it inside my document, Maya 2020 preference icon. Paste. Here we go. So now, when I come here, I can right click, edit, shelf, change the icon. Maya know exactly where to go because it's look for the custom icon folder. So I can highlight it, and here we go. And then I can save. You have to save all shelf whenever you edit. I think I'm gonna reduce the, I'm gonna just put AW, is that, here we go, because it's kind of blocking my arrow shape. You don't have to put the name label on it, but that's how you make your own icon. So now if I go to, so when you back up, you have to back up this folder. Copy icon folder and go to TD. Sorry guys, I'm started to feel like I'm rushing everything now because it's 6 already. Okay, so all right, here we go. So now I'm gonna open the previous scene, concept auto roll, don't save that. So I can click, here we go, and I can use that. If I wanted the pivot point to be right there, exactly there, I can go to Control Vertex and select only those CV, then move it forward. I can scale it too, make it smaller. Because when we put these together with the whole rig, we don't really animate this directly. But when we rig, we need to use that. So now I'm gonna call a L wheel short name. This time I'm gonna call it whole wheel. Oops, sorry. Wheel move CTL. Now, if you use capital, when you write a script, you have to put capital. So if you feel like you don't want to keep doing it because it's case sensitive, you can use all the lowercase like L, will, move, CTL. I mean, I just feel like if it have capital, it looks prettier. But so let's do something simple. Okay, so now we want the tire group node to follow this. Now, we don't want to parent it right away because we want it to be able to do subtle motion plus be able to scale everything up together. So what we need to do is we're gonna add a rotation group on top of it. Now the rotation group, it can be another curve, can be anything. So, but because we are not going to animate directly on that group, so on that attribute, we can just group it to itself. So right now it looks like this. You select the, so it might be easier if we call this as all, so that we don't get confused. It's just tire all or wheel all. It's up to you. I think if I use wheel, I should keep doing wheel. But so now I'm going to go to edit, group it to itself, and then we're going to move the group node to the center of that selection. So at this point though, there's no other object that beyond this boundary, so you could try modify center pivot. It should work. Okay, but if you have another object inside that group, that right here, it will center between those. So now this group node we're gonna call we're going to put TP is a short name, so we call L underscore wheel rotate TP, because we're going to use this to calculate the rotation. Okay. So now, after we do this, we want to constrain the translate to this object. Plus, we want it to be able to scale it when this changing the scale, because you want it to control shape to be able to scale accordingly to the object. No, the object scale accordingly to the controller size, right? So now, I need a little extra. You can use another group node also, but might be better to use a different shape of display. So we're going to use a locator. So create locator, look like this. And the locator, we want the locator to be right on there. Okay, because it's just easier to visualize, because this is going to be the locator that calculates the rotation, so that there won't be offset to here. So now what you need to do is, you can move this up, and you want it to be on the center of the tire. So now, can you see we have another group node on there that's already centered? What if you don't have it? This is what you need to use. So you use the center of the object. This is why I turn on wireframe on shaded, because can you see that's point the center of the entire wheel. So I can hold V key. V key, when I hold it, can you see it's toggle on the vertex snap or point snap. So when I hold V key, I'm going to constrain it only Y axis. So when I do that, let me undo quick so that you can see what it does. So see, the vertex that we want, that we're going to snap is right here, either this one or that one. Now, when I move it on this view, Maya will see the vertex in that direction. So when you hold V key, and then you grab only Y, can you see? It snaps, but try to snap to the vertex point. However, maintain no movement on left or on forward, because we grab only one axis. It's forced to move only one direction. So this is how you can center things really easy. So this one we're going to call, we want it to be the wheel move locator. So I can copy that name, because this is going to be part of that. We're going to use it to constrain it, because we want it to be able to control rotation and control the translation separately. So now, when I do that, this has to be a child of the wheel move. So when I grab the wheel, the wheel move, the locator follow. So now, we cannot just parenting this group node to it, because if we do it, it will force to animate both scale, rotation, and translate. So we don't want that. So what we need to do is, we're going to constrain. Now to constrain is similar to parenting, but constrain, when I switch to rigging, constraint is allow you to limit the parenting information. So can you see, constraint also have parent constraint. And then you might have questions like, so why we don't just parent it? Because you can't animate it. So but constraint you can animate on and off. So that's why it has that. But we don't use that. We're going to use constraint point. Point is position. I'm going to tear this off. How to constrain it? You have to select the object that will be a parent. So it means in this case, I have to select the move locator. That will be a parent. And then you will select the group node of the rotation. Here we go. Oops, sorry. I have to use control. Oh, I'm doing it right. So use outliner because it's hard to select the group node, right? And then point constraint, you want it to maintain offset so that it won't shift. But in this case, they are lined up exactly to each other. So, however, to be safe, do it anyway. And then click apply. So now it's point constraint, so it means I can move this and go with it. Here we go. So now, what about the scale? We want it to be able to scale that. Okay. So now, we're going to do the same. You select. Oh, by the way, when you do that, if you expand on the group, rotate group, you will see a wheel rotate. Can you see wheel rotate, point constraint? That's the constraint. You can get rid of it by delete this. And remember one thing though, after you constrain, you cannot change pivot point, gonna cause the shift. Because constraint use absolute node to calculation at the first time. So now, I select the move locator, and then I control, if I use outline, I use control click, not shift. Because if you have another object in between, we'll also select it. And then you're going to choose scale constraint. We leave the orange constraint separate. The orange constraint is rotation. So now, can you see on the group node, you have this constraint. And later on, we're going to have a script right on rotation X. So at this point, you can scale this. And it does correctly. Can you see? It does scale correctly because it uses pivot point of the main group node. So that because we parent these under there. Okay. So what time is it? Okay. So I don't think we're gonna finish this. So let's just finish only parenting to the control, and then we will come back next section. So now I'm gonna say, okay. So the next thing is, we wanted to be able to rotate at that pivot point. You might have a question that, so why don't we add these? Well, we wanted to separate them because we want this section to be independent. So now to do that, we're gonna add another group node on top of this rotate. So nesting one more, so group to itself, and this time you wanted to change the pivot point to the center again. So and go to modify center pivot. Here we go. And this group node you're gonna call orient. Oops, I deleted, sorry. So L underscore wheel orient, because we want to use this as an orient constraint. GP short name. And orange constraint, you just constrain the orange to this guy. Okay. So now you select select the move the move control, and control click to skip orange, and then choose constraint orange. Open up option, turn on maintain offset. So now let's test. Here we go. So now the wheel rotate at that pivot point, the controller pivot point. So now we can move, we can scale, we can rotate, and then if you want everything back to the original, you just select and zero out on the controller. Everything go back. So sorry guys, that's it for today. And next section we will finish this, and then so never mind about making you do on your own. We're gonna do it together on Monday to finish the real wheel. But you will have to do the second wheel by yourself, that's all. So basically, next week, we're going to finish the concept of this so that you get a little redundant work, so that kind of help you to practice. And then we're going to finish the rig. We're going to really do on this side, we're going to create the controller and so on more. Okay, any questions? I think that's too much information already for today. Okay, so let me stop the